is a concept that I've actually been thinking of for over 2 years. It was really ever since I started brewing at Lunacy Brewing Company and just realized how much resource and water waste there was during the brewing process. But I also wanted to take all of the information I had gathered by talking with brewery owners and visiting breweries, and I inquired about things like their spatial needs, their wants, and especially their regrets. And I wanted to turn that into a program that would facilitate fluid operation. And if I had learned, but I also have another driving factor, and that is the community of the brewing. So if I had learned anything during all of my research trips to breweries, it is that the community comes out of its shell at breweries. So I wanted to design a space that allowed for active engagement for those that are visiting the brewery and also those that might just be passing through. So to me, a brewery has 2 responsibilities. One is to the community and one is to the environment. To the community, it needs to help facilitate interaction, play, and enlightenment. And to the environment, it needs to leave as little impact as possible and give back what it can. So brewery is a destination, a point of interest. It's connected to the urban context of its surroundings. It's a perfect location to educate people on the intersection of agriculture, water, biology, and energy. Lynchburg, where my brewery is located, is up and coming. The waterfront is an extremely active place. The population is increasing in the area, the number of businesses are increasing in the area, and people are always looking for the new thing to keep them, in the city a little bit longer. And Lynchburg right now has no breweries. The best breweries are about 35 to 40 miles away from Lynchburg. Whereas an hour and 15 minutes away in Charlottesville, they have 6.5 mile radius. So being a smaller city, residential area here, and then the downtown area there, my site in the red block, it's definitely prime for a brewery. And this is, it's downtown area as opposed to center city to just show how walkable the city is. So my site is located in the northwest corner of Lynchburg. It is at the very end of a larger master plan that is being developed right now designed by Nelson Burton Waltz. The master plan includes everything from 9th Street over. This is 9th Street, so this is the street you would take to get to the brewery. And you can see that the master plan also includes the restoration of a lot of nearby buildings, all red brick, punched windows, and they're all being restored to their former glory. And this is one of the staples of the downtown area. This is the Depot Grill, and right now it is the only place that you can go for a decent selection of beers. So this is the master plan. As you can see, it's very similar. I added on to it with my brewery and the other portions of the city that they didn't include. And since the master plan has been implemented, right now Jefferson Street is loaded with shops, cafes, and restaurants. Same thing with Commerce Street, a lot of mom and pop shops and restaurants. And the economic generation is seen through the amount of new businesses that are actually flooding into those areas. Another major aspect of the new master plan are the trails. So the trail along the top here on the site plan, this is an existing trail. It's really a walk, it's the James River Walk, and it goes down. There's an island over on the other side here that continues it. But they added on to it. They added things like this sky bridge that I don't know if it'll be implemented or not, but added the sky bridge, they added crossings and everything. And what I wanted to do was to continue that walk and merge the James River Trail along with the Blackwater Creek Trail. So my site becomes a conduit between those 2 trails. Instead of ending at Lynchburg, it allows you to continue on through and wrap around Lynchburg as well. Then there's a lot of avenues that they're opening up with this master plan. It's a very hilly city, so these avenues have a lot of stairs, out overlooks, the whole nine. It's really turned into something beautiful. So I'm going to dive into the brewery. So given the language of the buildings in Lynchburg, with the red brick, very basic materials, punch windows, and stuff like that, I wanted to stick with and speak to the context of their materiality. And I have from the very beginning. This is a very early concept that I had. It is quite different from what you see today. And its main driving factors were, of course, that main run right here through this master plan, as well as the water's edge, giving it a little more organic shape on the water's edge side, and then a more geometric, in line with the city look on the front. And then it developed over the last quarter into what we see pretty much today, except for the terminus feature that is completely changed. The program on the inside is exactly the same as last quarter, because I had figured it all out then, but the terminus as well as the site, how the site looks, is completely done this quarter. So this is the new look, looking across the canal, which is being built right now in Lynchburg, to the terminus as a point of destination. So the pedestrian spaces were designed to encourage conversation and activity. There are plenty of places to sit, stand, play, and get used to the surrounding area, all while sipping on some beers. The palette of the interior space is warm, industrial, and I wanted to incorporate some interesting structural elements with the red built trusses. The exterior is designed to have clean lines that match the facade of the building, and I wanted it to have a consistent connection to the waterfront. I simplified the amount of colors to allow the terminus to stand out on the exterior and allow the brewing process, or the brewing system, to stand out on the interior. Those are the main points of interest while visiting this place, along with the amenities. So, the interior of the complex is broken up into 6 different parts. There are pedestrian areas, the restaurant, the brewery, and then the spaces that support the restaurant and the brewery. The flow into and out of the brewery encourages people to explore. After entering, a person is already at the halfway line of the tap room, as you can see there. And that allows them to either go check out the brewing system, which is what I would do, or they can go over to the bar and grab a beer. But it gives them basically free flow throughout the tap room. Upon exiting the tap room, the person is looking directly at the restaurant doors, which I predict will invite them to grab a bite to eat. Having the brewery and the restaurant separated was a completely conscious choice of mine. Really what I wanted to do was make the restaurant feel like a permanent food truck. They could have things like guest chefs. It can close when it gets late and the brewery wants to remain open. They can offer options to people that do not drink beer. And I feel that's why food trucks really do so well at breweries right now, and why breweries incorporate food trucks during their events. The terminus area was designed to give unfettered access to the waterfront amenities. The seating, the trail connection, and during operational hours, the games. I wanted the brewery to really feel like a full extension of the implemented master plan. So, worked out the occupancy and the parking of the entire complex, and the tap room. We're able to support 330 people, with the brewery 140. And I note that because that means that the brewery can be used as a flex space for private events. Parking requirements were a little steep, 136 parking spots, but I'm not worried about that because in this figurative project, I got the okay from Lynchburg zoning to do shared parking throughout the site. There are a couple of main parking garages that are, very, very close to the site, as well as a shared parking down along the railroad tracks between the Depot Grill and the Children's Museum, which is right here. Inside the brewery, there are a lot of functions. We have things like the drop-off, handicap parking on site. There's an access route that goes along here to the back loading area. That is where the unmilled grain storage would be, where you would store your base malts, as well as a place for the spent grain to go, so that way farmers can go up, dump the spent grain into the back of a truck, and drive away and go feed it to their cattle or their livestock. The brewery has all of the things that anyone could ever want in a brewery, to be honest with you. Storage, a mill room, yeast lab, prep kitchen. Put the prep kitchen in there so that way when you're getting ready to prep 500 pounds of raspberries for a heavily adjunct beer, you can do it right there in the brewery. It's got a cold room for the draft lines, fermentation row with 8 fermenters, bright tanks, hot and cold water storage, as well as a reverse osmosis system. We have the brew house over on the side here. We have more holding vessels, a well and pump room. I separated it so that way during crisis it could actually drain just in there and it won't flood the entire brewery. Kegging and bottling line, as well as a storage area for that. And if anyone's ever been to Double Nickel Brewery and done their tour, you can see just how much room cans actually take up in a brewery. Locker room and shower, because it's a messy process. And then we've got the solar electrical storage room, as well as the electrical room. Speaking on the terminus, I'm going to deem it the West End terminus because it's just a period on the northwestern side of it. I went through many different iterations, as Bob can attest to, and I landed on this design right here. This design incorporates copper-colored aluminum panels in the shape of the petals on a hop cone. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, but the way I organized it, it doesn't really smack you over the head with a hop cone. The canopy is also a metal panel, and it's made to look like stretched fabric canopy, and it is brass colored. The whole idea of this canopy is that it can be used during tours to be a narrative for the brewing process. The copper can then spark conversation on the vessels that were used throughout history. The panel shape can then be used to talk about the hops, which are basically, the core ingredient for the flavoring of beers. It also happens to be the core of the brewery and the restaurant itself. The wood on the interior is arranged to look like the spindles inside the hop cone, so it's a little more organic look. And then you also have the water on the exterior that can talk about the importance of the water in the process. So, and then the other major feature of the terminus is that it provides cover between the brewery and the restaurant for free flow during unopportune conditions outside. So, now I'm going to get into the system, which is arguably the other half of this project. I know I'm graduating from architecture school, but I have a true affinity for systems, and specifically the brewing systems. And I know the brewing process like the back of my hand. I have for years. And for this building, I really thought it was critical that if I'm going to understand this building, I need to do it in an architectural and a systematic method, and that I need to really pay attention to the systems that are housed within the building. So who knows how to brew beer? You don't count. Oh, here we go, we got one. All right, so you can attest that the major wastes of energy are heating up your strike water, heating up your boil kettle, and then your major grab of energy would be during the chilling process, because now you are taking fully clean water, you're heating it up in a non-contact way, and it's able to then be used, and you're able to siphon off and harvest the energy that has been transferred to that clean water. So the brewing process, for all of you that do not know it, it is combination water, malt, hops, and yeast. You put the malt into a bucket, you put hot water in that bucket, you steep it for an hour, you run hot water over it, you boil it for an hour, then you chill it. And during the chilling process is when you drop all those proteins that are still in the solution down at the bottom, add a little oxygen, add some yeast, and then you bottle it, and that is the super quick version. But it is what I needed to be able to do these diagrams that got me to where I am today. And this was looking at a lot of the energy that goes in, what I get out of it, and what is actually being wasted. So that way I can see the supply chain in its full context. And this is what I came up with after also researching the temperature and precipitation and finding out that Lynchburg is able to harvest peak performance from solar panels 82% of the year. So the solar panel system that is on this is able to produce 180 kilowatt hours per hour. And it's supplied by 720 275 watt solar panels. And the one thing inside the brewery that uses the most energy is the boil kettle, and it uses 144 kilowatts to hit boil temperature in 45 minutes. So that means that it's not that it would take an hour and 45 minutes for the boil to finish, meaning that it may have to rely on the storage power inside the brewery. But that's the only time. It's 105 minutes out of the day, every other day, that you're actually going to need that kind of peak performance. The other thing that I used were evacuated solar tubes. Evacuated solar tubes are really cool. They take a 90th of a gallon of water, they pump it through a tube, they heat it up using the solar. It's able to go from 55 degrees to 200 degrees in a single pass, which means that I can take well water, shove it up to the roof, pull it back down, store it into a hot liquor tank, and actually I should probably just go with this. So we go up to the roof, when we come back down, it's able to be stored in here. Then there's a mixture of cold and hot water in order to reach what's called strike temperature. It's usually around 170 degrees. That water is then put onto the mash tun and on top of the grains. That is then moved over to the boil kettle, boiled. That hot water is then put into a heat exchanger. The heat exchanger is pulling cold water from the well water, and it is at that point that I would have some solenoids with temp probes that would be able to take all the water to about 120 degrees. So when it first comes out, it's going to be about 180 degrees. Then eventually it'll start to cool down because you're chilling the entire beer. So all the hot water will go into the red tank. All the cold water below that 120 degrees will go into the cool tank. And that water will then be used to go to heat exchanger HVAC units, so that way we can utilize the energy that's already been put into the water and reduce the energy that's necessary to heat the place as well as cool the place over time. So the structure of the building, I wanted it to be cohesive with material and the language. Needed it to be industrial. The industrial look in breweries is, extremely popular these days, but it also allows for a lot of modification. The horizontals are mainly wood, and the verticals are all metal columns. So we look at the structure here. You can see that I have an array set 25 feet apart, and it moves through the entire building. The tap room is a slightly lower level. We have its parapet at 19.3, so the top of the room in here is about 15 feet. And we move up and allow clear story windows to help penetrate light into the brewery. This is the area of the building that would get the most light, the most reflected light. But I also have a canopy that covers that, so that way it doesn't get direct sunlight. We are trying to, remain somewhat sustainable. The columns that are in the columns that are in the terminus, they go all the way up to 61 feet. The top column does anyways. And they have an angle, again, to make it look like it's stretching the canopy out like a piece of fabric. I added in everything that we had talked about last quarter. So we've got a vent agent overhang that protects those clear story windows, and then everything else is with from the interior. So we have brick veneer on the exterior here. On the inside we have our thermal layer, and I did a lot of research on how to support a storefront system inside of a brick wall, especially if you're going to top it with brick. So I've got all of the things like the lateral stabilizer installed in the wall section as well. And then the roof is heavily insulated and also quite supported by these red-built trusses, or sorry, these red-built beams that go across, because it has to support that entire solar system. In the brewery, the red-built trusses have an option of coming with longer top cords. So what I did was I had the top cord actually protrude through the wall 3 feet. So that way on the exterior what you're seeing is this cascade of shadow lines that change all throughout the day, just to reveal the structure a little bit on the exterior of the building. At night there would be appropriate accent lighting, accenting the terminus so that way it can still be seen anywhere on that master plan, and then down lights underneath every other protruding top cord and the interior, of course. But Lynchburg's a very well-lit city, again, very walkable even at nighttime, and so this would be an incredibly popular location there. I have one more thing, and it is a quick video, and I'm going to just let it play. This is to give a better sense of the surrounding context, where it is on the site, what matters in Lynchburg, and how the complex works together. I didn't think it would be appropriate to do music. So when you get in, of course, it would be something that you would look up at. And then you hit your head on a beam. Column. Outdoor, there would be cornhole area or a game area, partial cornhole. Plenty of places to sit. All along the water's edge of Blackwater Creek. Inside the brewery, you have the pump room, the brew house, the fermenters to the right, bright tanks to the left, billiards, more places to sit, merch room over on the corner. You can stand around each of the columns. There's a drink tray there. And then exiting, you would look back in line with the master plan. And again, the entire thing is powered by those 720 solar panels and those Tesla power packs inside of the electrical storage room. Back service ramp, again, where the farmers would back up to the spent grain silo so that way they can pull that for the livestock. That's it. Cheers.